Welcome to Albany County Direct. I'm your host, County Executive Daniel McCoy. Recently, many of you received your first edition of our new county newsletter in your mailbox, and we got so much great feedback on that, Mary, and it was incredible the amount of people that didn't realize the stuff that we're doing in the county.
That's
it
right.
was a good way to highlight this. And I want to say this to the listeners. We've been emailing for the last 14 years, and, emails, people get so many emails nowadays, and so much of it's spam or junk, or it goes over to the junk side. And
It's white noise. You just get you don't even pay
or
attention.
people don't even notice it, and they go, nope, not for me, and they skip over it. So we decided the last couple of years, hey, we got to do a newsletter. And it took a little bit longer than we anticipated. But
all right, I'll fess up. By the way, Mary Rozak, the Chief Communications Officer here with the County Executive, and the County Executive has been asking for this I've been with you for 14 and a half years, so I will throw myself under the bus. You have been asking for this for about 13 years. But I don't think anybody knows really how much effort really goes into putting together a comprehensive newsletter like you wanted to be put out. But that's why the electronic newsletter went out in March. Easy peasy.
Yeah, no,
right?
that was easy. But it's one of them things where, it was so hard because so many departments are doing extraordinary things in the community. And we're like that silent partner in a partnership. No one really realizes a lot what the county does. COVID highlighted just an aspect of what we do day in, day out, but not really the whole picture. So we really want to get out there. And one of the criticisms I take is from people not knowing about signups for, I was just talking to our Parks and Rec Commissioner about swimming or senior aerobics or pickleball or karate, cheerleading. Or by the time they find out about it or yoga, that it's filled up or it's over. I know. I have people I know yell at me all the time. They're like, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell? I'm like,
because these are so popular.
Right. And as we expanded our Parks and Rec, obviously we used to be just up in Hilltowns on Lawson's Lake and soon to be at the Buddhist property, but also going into the city Cohoes when they lost their community center and, filling that void. And it's working out, and we're expanding services. We're doing more than we have ever done before, which is a good thing. But that's the reason why we got to put the newsletter out there so people know. And then, again, I wish I did this years ago.
I know.
But, every town, city, village, school district, BOCES, cities, state government.
Our elected officials. How many do you get? I mean, I get them from the assemblyman, from the state senator, from the congressman. You get them.
And it's just, it's about the bills they're doing. It's about everything else. And that will come in time. But in about, state, this is about highlighting the great programs, the men and women behind these programs. Like, no one even realizes that we have a dental clinic. A lot of people don't. Right. And we're the only county in the state that runs a dental clinic. We're not mandated to do it. We did it as a kid. I went there. I know the importance of having a dental clinic. People who can't afford it, people know how much cleanings are or getting reimbursed. It's a good service that we provide. And, it's mental health for children, not just adults. All these different programs that people have no idea, or if they're, struggling and they need help, where they can reach out to. So, again, it's been a huge thing. We should have done it a long time ago. And we plan on doing a couple a year. And highlighting the other individual offices, from Sheriff Apple, the extraordinary things. No one really knows what the sheriff does day in, day out. They see, different things out there, but he does extraordinary stuff, not just from the jail, from the SHIPS program and other things, the partnership with me with Lawson's Lake, a variety of other things. Same thing with
the county clerk.
The county clerk. I mean, Bruce, people don't realize the archive that you can go online, what you can research just going onto the website. People that love that stuff do it, but the normal person doesn't realize they can just go there and do it online and check things out, or the history that's in the archives, or our controller Sue Rizzo, same thing. What's the control? People are like, what did the controller do? There's a variety of things we need to highlight so people understand. In the district attorney's office, what do they do? And the programs, he has senior programs. He has things he does, for financial crime, putting things out there.
And he's in the classroom. We heard about that in the classroom with kids.
Yeah, these are things that people should know, that government is working for them, efficiently working for them. And I take pride, 11 years not raising taxes. We eliminated 500 jobs. And I like to remind the listeners, when I took over, we were borrowing $15 million a year to make payroll, which we call the TANs. We had $20 million in reserves, and we owed the state controller $40 million in we amortized
Yep.
our state retirement. So we had to dig ourselves out of that hole, and we did. And I had to fight with union members that I'm from Albany, born and raised, and it was hard because these people I either went to school with or we socially ran into different things. It was a lot of hard feelings, and I lost friends over it.
You don't borrow money to make the payroll. It's about cash flow. You don't
Correct.
do that. That you eliminated that.
Right.
Yep.
And these are things, and the hidden things we do in between our DPW with different departments, the interaction we do. People don't realize we've gone into the city of Albany helping plow. We've lent them salt. We helped them out when they needed it. Our DPW went out to Buffalo during a couple of storms and helped out there.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
There's a lot of things different departments do interacting with other towns, cities, and villages every day. And I guess, that's my fault because we should really publicize that. We try to.
And we try. We try.
hard.
It's different ways. We try doing it with press conferences. Yeah, I get a little defensive about this because no matter, you and I have this conversation all the time. People don't, even after all this time, still have a solid sense of what county services and what the county provides. And we've done it through press conferences. We do it through social media. We've done it through a variety of things, including our website, which, by the way, the electronic newsletter, and there are more versions electronic that will come faster.
I still want to be the greenest county in the state of New York. And it's hard. And I want to do digital, but I also realize there's a lot of people that don't like digital. They still like to see it. And, they want to read it. They want to hold it in their hands.
Sure. For those people that really are interested in the digital, you can actually go and see what the March electronic newsletter was. It's on our website. Go to albanycountyny.gov. You can see that. You also can sign up if you want the digital version because, in this day and age, you need to opt in. We need to have your email address. It's not like we can just, wave a magic wand and get some list. That's not how it works. We get a list of people who want to receive the newsletter, so you can go in and do that.
Yeah, no, it's it's like the narrative when people put it out there, and before I get into the second part, which it's alarming to me, is when you look at press and I'm not agreeing with the guy on the national level at all. But when you look at it, how they have just become so political, so one-sided, and to me, like when you had Carol DeMauro, you had Lynch, and I could go through all the great reporters, and I didn't agree with all of them. Jordan's one of them,
Jordan Carleo Evangelist, one of the best relationships we've ever had, right? And he was very critical.
Oh my God, I used to say, it's like reading a Stephen King novel. I'm waiting to the end. I'm on the edge of my seat, Jordan.
Right.
But again, not that I agree with every story, but hey, I get it, right? You take the good, the bad, the ugly in this position. But we lost that balance because I think of the Brian Gumbel show, Real Sports, when it was on HBO. And at the end, they would talk about all the segments for the year. And he'd always say to the one guy, he goes, I know we're not supposed to, really get attached to stories. We're supposed to be objective. We're supposed to write it, objectively. We do fall in love with stories. And they started talking about that. And I'm like, we lost that being objective. It's one-sided. It's like, when did the press decide that they're going to decide what the narrative is on somebody, or if they're criticizing for that? And I understand the criticism. I do. That's their job to pull out some things. But we got to highlight the good stuff. The same thing with the Alliance, all the economic development we've done over the years outside the city of Albany. Now, last year, we filled a void. I had them frank conversations when we took it over. The Central Warehouse was turned over by the former mayor. College St. Rose, we stepped in because no one else would. Same thing with McDonald's site. We offered to give it back, and say, hey, you decide. So, we went in there doing the fire tower. The city of Albany is the capital of New York, and they don't even have a fire tower for the professional firefighters. And we took care of all the towers outside, all the volunteer ones, and we took care of that first. And now it's like, hey, let's make this right. They should have a facility they can call home. We did this.
All of these things are so very important. And so it gets back to content of the newsletter. And if anyone criticizes that, bring it on. I understand that. But content should be about what people need to know and what they need to be able to use, right? So this newsletter, economic development, is so much of what Albany County and you are doing. So to highlight the College of St. Rose, which could have been a wasteland and is
Yeah.
not,
Right.
to highlight, things like that are so very important to talk about. We did not into any great extent about Central Warehouse because that's still unfolding, and
It's still
there
unfolding.
is more to come.
It's a tough building.
But it is a tough building, and I know it's the asbestos removal that's going on, and things that are not very visual or very sexy, or things that people can see. There's stuff happening, but you talk about the physical newsletter. People see that, they see a picture. They also do what a lot of people do, and you have given in this newsletter the task we had was to incorporate various contact information for all the departments, right? Or a majority of departments.
Yeah.
We had to pick and choose some, otherwise it would have been like 100 pages long. And people, you know what people do? They'll take and they'll rip that page, they'll put it on their fridge with a magnet and know where to go when they need to have that contact information.
Right.
That's what's important. So,
No, it's so important because, when you look at things, you can't let one narrative run the other. And, it's my job, and I got to say to the Lions, everything that when I created this, the whole economic development arm, and the legislature was on board, and this great relationship I have with Chairwoman Joanne Cunningham, Deputy Chair Wanda Willingham, and Majority Leader Dennis Feeney, the Black Caucus, the Conservative Caucus. It's really coming together and saying, okay, how can we fairly do things going forward? And one of the things I have to, it's my job to put pom-poms in my hand and cheerlead for Albany County, why you want to move a company here, how great we are. I love being county executive. I love doing this. And, I want to attract economic development here. I want to give people an opportunity. I want to be respectful of the environment. I want to make sure that we do it in a way that protects this land, our water, our, everything for the future of not just my grandkids or kids, for their kids or other people's kids, so they can enjoy why I live here. It's a beautiful place to live, right? You're in the capital region of New York State. There's so much stuff going on. And these are the things we have to do. And I was laughing when we did the Dennis Quaid show, and I think that tabloid paper, the editor said, worst politician in history. And I'm like, because I'm highlighting Albany County, which every county pretty much in New York State has done the same thing we've done.
Sure.
They've done segments all over, and I remember, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, when that person said, wow, that paper must really hate you. We've never run into this. And I'm like, yeah, they do. But, as we move forward, that can't be the driving narrative. This is a great place to live, to work, and, I was chuckling about the other article today from the, columnist who gets on my relationship with Steve McLaughlin across the river, which they hate, but isn't it about Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill days, 42nd Speaker of the House? We can agree to disagree, but we still have to have common ground, and we still have to communicate.
You're both county executives.
Right.
You're both leading your own. You may lead in different ways, but at the end of the day, it's about the people that you are representing, right?
And I always defend, the Attorney General, the Governor, everyone. I'm like, listen, I got good relationships, doing a good job. We have our battles. We do it quietly. You know what I mean? We don't agree. You trust me. There's a lot of things we don't agree on. But we found that where we can work together, we can partnership together, and that's what I owe to the people. After November, I just don't represent the Democrats. I represent everybody.
Correct.
And my job is to be calm during a storm like we were through COVID, and every storm that hits us, like the state budget that just came out. And I remember my state county called out the senators and assembly members there. I go, don't pass the buck down to us. And I said, hopefully that paper writes about it when you do. Well, I just got hit with a $12 million bill so far that I'm aware of. $800, I got to start paying. $800,000 I got to pay this October for SNAP, and then another $10 million for a fine that they were supposed to pay that they're making us pay. So I'm looking at 12.5 on top of the changes to Tier 6, which I agree Tier 6 had to be changed, but people forget. 2014, here, let me help that tabloid, because obviously they don't do their homework anymore. 2014, then Governor Cuomo passed a law, and they signed off on it. Any changes to Tier 6, because he anticipated it, would have to be absorbed by the state. I don't believe that law changed. We're trying to find out. I pulled up the law. We have the law. So I'm like, okay, that's great. You changed it. Why am I paying for it? Right?
Exactly.
Crickets. So everything gets paid. They didn't make any hard decisions. They just passed the buck down to us. I'm waiting for that editorial board to say something. Or, you get how can I say this? You get treated differently when you're fiscally prudent and you do your job. If you blow through everything, you get bailed out, right? That's not the way it's supposed to work. I work for the people. I work for the constituents. I try to go out. I knocked on doors in Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. Been out here 3 times talking to the neighbors. I can't, I was president of a neighborhood association. I started a neighborhood association. I get it. People come in, passionately want to do things, and then they drop out if they get their issue. They're issue driven. Right? And I can't listen to a board that just doesn't want to be open-minded. What would this campus look like if we didn't do what we did? And then
it would be the wasteland I said earlier. That's
and
what
I
it would
remember
be.
saying to you, chuckling, I go, I can't believe that think tank that like they call themselves up there in Colony that they said, oh, take your time. What's a rush? Do studies. Well, they did studies here. And what did you get them? They got the college closed.
Question is, how many studies do you need?
Correct. And I had, $35 million on the hook to the taxpayers of Albany County. We've put in over $10 million in infrastructure because nothing was done here. And I challenged them back in November, walk through all the buildings with me. I challenged, tell the neighbors, walk through. Everything was left intact. Furniture, artwork, computers, you name it. The DNA lab still has all stuff in there. So it's like you sit there and you're like, okay, we're dealing with a bigger mess than we anticipated, right?
Right.
And we're figuring it out. I'm not whining.
Think about it.
Right.
You recently announced the launch of the book auction.
Correct.
I mean, and there are outlets. There are lots of media outlets that have expressed interest and have done stories and have covered them that way.
Right.
There are outlets that sometimes are still critical, but still deliver a fair report. I mean, I'm going to call it the business review. I mean, there are times when it is not the most favorable.
No, I know.
Story.
I hope you're listening, Business Review. No, but they're fair.
They're fair.
And that's all we expect. Listen, I don't think they should write every great story, but there's an obligation to say what's going on in the county, good, bad, and indifferent. It can't just be always the bad stuff. Or, I wonder this one columnist just writes I'm like, why do you even live here? Because the way they write, it's like they don't like this area, or they call out, Steve for being nasty and rude, and he look at the way he acts. Well, I've seen that same person write nasty columns and name call people, come up with little catchy things. It's all clickbait, people. It's clickbait, so people go on their site and click the story, the headline. So the more clickbait they get, the more money they get for advertising. I get it. I must sell papers. I really got to buy stock in this corporation. But it's that's fine, right? I get it. But don't, everyone does newsletters. Maybe you should do your work. And let's talk about every town, city, and village. Let's talk about everyone else that does the same, has been doing this since the beginning of time.
If you use
just because we didn't do it.
If you use AI and just go to like a chat GBT, you could get some figures, some facts and figures about what local assembly people, local state people are spending. 120 to 190 a year, 1,000 I'm talking. And like with all AI, I say you have to look at the sources.
Yeah,
but those are the numbers that are out there for mailers.
Right.
And so, you got to say, wait a minute, are you taking a look at all of those too? Where are the stories on those?
Right. Just because I took a trip with Steve McLaughlin, another county executive from across the country, and it was funny. A week later, the Senate does the same thing, but there was no story. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. So it's like, stop being petty. If you want to do it across the board. And I remember, I was chuckling today because, by the way, we have Dannyland shirts, thanks to that person.
I know.
So, Chick-fil-A, the rest of them, I'm selling socks, shirts. So in Smallville or McCoyville. So please, reach out. We'll get you the shirts, and it's going to a nonprofit. All the proceeds. So we're not keeping it I'm not keeping it for myself. We're gonna donate all the money.
And they were not printed with county dollars, made with county dollars.
They were not. It was outside the county. But it's like, I saw the story today. It was like, relationship with Steve going to Ireland, got rid of David Soares, the airport.
But remember, commentary, people don't understand.
No, I know that. But
people don't understand that, though. Commentary column,
right.
Not necessarily factual. It is opinion.
It's like reading the Inquirer. So, it's weird. And you made a mistake. You sent a text to the
Yep.
wrong person. It happens. We're human. And you told them that, and they printed it anyway, right? Which is fine.
But
But
at the end of the day, you and I have had discussions over the years, and I have always been a journalist at heart and saying, you know what, they're just doing their jobs. We have to do this. We need to answer their questions. And back and forth, we have had this constant argument about all of the things on any given day. It could be 3 to 6 reporters from a local state that are actually a local media outlet that could be asking questions about a variety of departments.
correct.
And so I have always stood up and said, hey, I got to answer every question. And yet, after all this time, 6 months or so ago, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. When something is going to be twisted and distorted in such a way
Right.
that it takes the facts, takes the good information, and leaves things out, or adds things, or takes a different light on something. I want to say one thing that really is annoying, but one of the stories in it that shows this newsletter that was 100% created by staff in the county executive's office. So let's dispel that myth that's out there, that bad rumor. We are doing a lot of things and a lot of jobs and putting things together. And yet, this story shows the newsletter acknowledges that an RFP that was just awarded
Right.
acknowledges from that agency that they had no part in the newsletter, but yet puts a picture of it up. And if you are looking at that and then looking at a quote from a legislator that is saying something to the effect that if money from this award went to create that newsletter or had created, it distorts that's not what happened.
No.
And yet it's all juxtaposed,
No,
so it
also-
makes it appear.
I agree. They just get someone to say, "Oh yeah, that sounds about right."
Yeah.
And no offense, there's 39 legislators. We're the biggest county government in the state of New York, and I believe the biggest in the country. So it's challenging, right? And people don't realize. I talk to a lot of legislators, not just leadership, out in the community all the time, talking to clergy, trying to stay in touch, as much as I can to make sure we are on track. And I respect all the opinions, good, bad, that are live people, the fake ones, the political hacks out there, the fake names. All right, whatever, go find it, go get a life, but the other ones I do appreciate because, I want the good criticism and I want the bad criticism. I want to hear, what's going on and what we're doing differently. But it was ironic, and before we move on here and wrap this up, because you and I could go on forever, I remember 14 years ago, you go, oh, there's a thing called journalism integrity, and I have that, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I learned a lot from you back then. I'm like, I got what you were saying, like, you're not compromising your integrity for anything. So I'm like, I respected that, Mary, and I've respected you for 14 and a half years.
And I appreciate that.
And after, they like to call it the airport debacle, and I'll talk about it all day long. It was weird. The editor, Casey, sends unappropriate email video on me, and you got it by mistake, and he circled back to you very quickly, and you never told me. So she takes it and doesn't tell me weeks later and I was a little upset. I'm like, I want to go public. She goes, no, it's integrity.
It was a mistake. People make mistakes,
and
right?
you go, no, I this was to me, and I'm making aware of it. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was very upset. I'm like, no, this is unethical for a person like this to be putting videos out like this on me. Where's my fairness? Where's the objectiveness? Where they got a narrative, and that video showed that narrative was they're trying to kill me, and I let it go because out of respect to you, I said, you know what, Mary, I respect it. I'm not gonna, it was a mistake. I go, but I'll respect the fact that you don't want me to go public with it. And then you make the same mistake, not to that degree, but a simple text.
I simply confirm the fact that we are not responding because I don't consider them to be a journalist anymore.
And you act the same thing. Hey, your boss made a mistake, and I let it go. Boom, and they didn't care, and it didn't. This fits their narrative. Like, oh, look, they're not. I don't mind. Back in November when all this other stuff was going on, we challenged them. We said, come to St. Rose. walk the buildings, see what we inherit, see what we're dealing with, see the infrastructure, really write the story about this place. And I'll sit down to your editorial board and I'll sit there for 3 hours. But I want you to take a tour and understand what I'm dealing with and why we have to move quick. We have over 10 million in infrastructure, more than that. We're paying it off. We're trying to change around to stabilize the neighborhood. Frankie Paisan just did a video saying how great it is. His business is up so much. He's invested in the building, opened up a parking lot. Business is up the street. Same thing. They're so happy with the traffic that's here now.
And more to come with everything else that's happening.
Correct. We got a lot more announcements to do, which is good. And to get to another point, and all that being said, it's like it's just noise. I have an obligation to the people, and hopefully they reelect me next year. I will say that will be my last term. My next one, it'll be time to move on from that point in my life. But I love doing what I'm doing. We have so much stuff going on, and we could sit here for hours saying all that. But I just say to listeners, take the newsletter. We got nothing but great feedback. And we couldn't even highlight everything.
No.
And there's certain departments we couldn't.
No. And a good point, too, as we wrap this up, and a good segue is there's so much going on with economic development, and there's only a limited amount of things that our staff is doing so much to try and get that information out that we needed to put out an RFP to help with the marketing and the communications around economic development and podcast, which is a video podcast, which is, if someone said I shouldn't have this job if I can't do a podcast, right? Well, I can't do a video podcast. Those are they're much more complicated and the ones and going to be well produced. Yeah. But that RFP was put out. So let me make it clear. The county employees produced this newsletter. The newsletter that was in the mail, the newsletter that is up electronically from earlier this year. An award was made. 18 proposals came in. It took probably about a month to go through all the proposals. A low proposal came in under $50,000. The highest was over $1 million. $1 million.
Right.
All across the country, 18 proposals, many in six figures, some higher. The Baker Agency was granted
they
that
do a good job.
CAP. They do a terrific job.
They did a good job for our Alliance. They're going to do it for the Pine Hills Authority and for the Alliance and everything else, because it is hard to capture every story that's going on and get it out there. It's about helping Albany County attract investment, support job creation, marketing and development opportunities, and telling the story of why businesses should locate here and grow here. Most importantly, we want to help the companies that are here, which we've done with the partnership with the legislature, putting money in the budget, $2 million a year to help someone get the skill set to get the next job in that company. So we are trying to support the companies that are here as well as track new opportunities for here. And that means more sales tax. That means more property tax.
And you and I in a team, if we had the discussion, you said, Mary, how many more people do you need? I honestly said to you, it's not a matter of bringing on one person. You can't just bring on one person to do. You have people with specialized skill sets. We need an agency that's going to be able to give us the best bang for our buck. And that's what we went and did. So we're gonna get that.
We are. And again, you're gonna see more of this. You're gonna see some commercials, radio ads, but it's coming.
Yep.
And, we are highlighting what we're doing here, being good stewards to the county, paying the debt off at St. Rose, going to the next phase of housing for 55 and older community, and redeveloping this whole area. And it will be a gem, and it will be a showcase, because I want to remind listeners, out of the 20 colleges I looked at around the area and some beyond, this is the only one actually doing something. And some been closed for 15 to 19 years, rotting away, buildings rotting away. No, people thought they were going to do something, and they didn't do it. If we didn't do what we did, do you know what this area would look like right now?
Like I say again, wasteland.
And I said to one neighbor here, I go, I'm not looking for a pat on our back. We're just trying to get done and be good partners. No, not everyone's going to agree with everything I'm doing. But when you got to pay the bills, you got to figure this out. And I can't thank the Pine Hill Board members enough for what they do day in, day out. But I do want to say the county does have a responsibility to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And part of that responsibility is making sure we're investing in partnerships who have experience, capability to perform the work. So Baker strategy is going to help us get to that plateau. It's not going to be a narrative from the tabloid. It's going to be like, here's our narrative, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't mind. I tell people we made mistakes through the newsletter. It's okay. It happens. We rectified that problem. So there's things that we do, and it wasn't nothing's intentional. It's just again we were it's taken a while to get here to get that newsletter out.
I know.
But it happened. Am I happy it happened? No. But the what we've gotten back, yes. You want to make politics out of it or why we did it, go right ahead. But it did every intention I thought it was going to do, and I wish I did this a long time ago because no one reads emails that much anymore. They should, but I get it. This is a letter, and it will change. Like I said earlier, we're going to highlight the other elected officials' offices, the legislature, bills that they're doing.
Yep.
This was just an introduction to all of our program, and you'll see it change over the course of the next couple of months, and then again going into next year and the year after that. It's going to highlight everything we're doing in bills and stuff like that. We're just getting our feet planted, people. So get ready for the TV, get ready for the radio, get ready for more newsletters. It's coming. So I do want to say thank you, Mary, as always. We don't. Like my partner across the river, we don't agree. We'll agree to disagree on a lot of things, but I've learned a lot from you, and I'll give you one opportunity to say one last thing before we wrap this up.
If you want to subscribe to the electronic version of the newsletter, which I'm going to continue to push,
yes,
go to our website, albanycountyny.gov. You can look at the newsletter that's already up there from March, and you can also sign up to be on that list to get it.
No, thank you. And also, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out other episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Subscribe so you never miss any updates. Thank you for listening to Albany County Direct.